evening. I'd like to call the Wednesday, November 12th, 2025 City Commission for Pittsburgh to order. Would you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to invite Pastor Daniel from the First United Methodist Church to come forward and lead us in prayer.
Good evening, everybody. As we begin tonight, I would ask you to join me for a moment of silence as we remember Toby Book. Toby was the director of Parks and Rec here in Pittsburgh, and he passed away 2 weeks ago tonight. So whether or not you knew Toby or knew of his work, he served our city. And so as we begin tonight, let's just pause for a moment and give thanks for his life. Gracious God, the sun has set on yet another day, and what a beautiful day it has been. The sun has been shining, and the leaves on the trees bear witness to your beauty, that even in the midst of death, there can be hope and new life. So help us to remember tonight the lesson of the leaves, that even as the leaves will fall, they will give way to new life, as we trust Toby's life will as well. You've given us so much here in Pittsburgh to be thankful for, and you have asked us to be responsible to it. So grant us wisdom tonight as we make decisions, and grant us courage to do the right thing, and always a deep hope for what is possible when we work together for the good of all your people. May it be so. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. All right, moving on. We've got a couple. Pittsburgh Positive. I'd like to invite Ann Elliott to come forward.
Oh, can I pass the podium?
Well, we would like to present Ann with Pittsburgh Positive. Ann, you may or may not know, has been the Executive Director of the Family Resource Center and is retiring of that position on Friday. And, it seems kind of, sad we gave this to you as you're leaving, but the center under your leadership has not only expanded to a second site, but every day serves over 400 families. And you can imagine over the 27 years that the center's been in operation, how many families in our community have been affected by that quality education. And also, as the executive director, has brought in annually over $2 million in grant funds. And those don't just stay with the center. They go to other child care providers to provide education and equipment so that the quality of child care is raised across the community. So we just wanted to thank you for all you've done. Nobody ever leaves the center.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. But you have earned a well-deserved rest.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything?
I just wanted to thank you guys for this. It means a lot. I am. You're gonna have to turn around. Okay. You're gonna have to turn around.
Okay, I'll go sit down.
I have enjoyed my time. I get up every day to a job I love. So, thank you.
I would like to invite Darcy to come forward, and Joella, yeah. We have a proclamation, whereas the Memorial Auditorium and Convention Center has been a cornerstone of the Pittsburgh community since its dedication in 1925, serving as a gathering place for cultural events, performances, civic celebrations, and community milestones. And whereas the Memorial Auditorium has provided a stage for artists, musicians, and performers across the region and beyond, enriching the cultural life of Pittsburgh and creating memories for generations of residents. And whereas the facility stands as a lasting tribute to the service and sacrifice of local veterans and as a living symbol of Pittsburgh's commitment to the arts, education, and community engagement. And whereas the city of Pittsburgh recognizes the dedication of those who have maintained, supported, and revitalized this historic venue through the past century. And whereas on November 25th, 2025, Memorial Auditorium will celebrate its 100th anniversary with a rededication ceremony honoring its rich history and bright future. Now, therefore, I, Dawn McNay, Mayor of the City of Pittsburgh, Kansas, do proclaim November 25th, 2025 as Memorial Auditorium Day in the City of Pittsburgh and encourage all citizens to join in celebrating the century of culture, community, and connection that the Memorial Auditorium has brought to our city. You would like to say a few words? Well,
No, we're just, this is really wonderful. I think we're just excited about the future and some of the projects that we have planned for community outreach and serving the citizens. Yeah, so great.
well, congratulations. Thank you. We had a second proclamation this evening, Jim Triplett Day, and Mrs. Triplett is a little under the weather, so we're going to postpone that so she can be here with us. All right, moving into public input. Is there anyone who would like to come forward in public input?
Hi, Christy Bentner, 1508 Bentner Court. Good evening, Commissioners. By a show of hands, how many of the Commissioners have received the latest copy of the 2026 budget book from the City Manager? No one? Okay. Well, in September, I made a request for the new budget forms that were going to be updated and was told it was unavailable until the end of October. So on October 31st, the city clerk emailed me a copy of the latest 2026 adopted budget book. As I began to review the pages of this book, I observed that certain pages did not look the same as the previous book given to Commissioners on September 9th. The first thing to stand out was the City Manager's budget message, which is usually 2 to 3 pages. That's now only 2 sentences. The adopted budget message reads, quote, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners, I present the Pittsburgh's 2026 adopted budget as passed by you during your City Commission meeting on September 9, 2025. Thank you for your work and leadership on the 2026 adopted budget. Respectfully, Darren Hall, City Manager, unquote. From there, it was quite surprising to see how much the numbers changed from the September 9th budget document. There are over 30 pages of numbers that have markedly changed from previous versions of the 2026 budget. The mill levy table, specific line items, totals of years 2024 through 2026, and FTE positions are examples of what I found. How does this happen? Given these circumstances, the Commission should re-examine this budget document to know how the city will spend funds for next year, call for an outside audit to take place as soon as possible, and to give an explanation to the taxpayers of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Right, well, I would like to take this moment and congratulate Stu and Cheryl and DJ for their election, and we know DJ will be seated at the first meeting of December. All right, yeah, moving on, consent agenda. Nothing has been requested to be taken off, so we have items A, B, and C.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Stu, seconded by Cheryl, roll call vote.
Brooks.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
McNay.
Yes,
Mansell.
Yes.
Sigley.
Yes.
motion carries. Moving on to special presentation. Housing Needs Assessment. Director of Housing and Community Development, Kim Froman, will highlight key findings and current priorities in the Housing Needs Assessment and provide an update on active housing initiatives. Welcome, Kim.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Let me get my thing here. Okay, so our housing needs assessment, the city had originally done one in 2014. We worked with a company called Novogradac, so that was the company that we contracted with to do our most recent housing needs assessment. Novogradac had done a brief update in 2018 for us and 2022 as well, so it was a little bit outdated, so we thought it would be good to do a refresh and get a brand new housing needs assessment. And I will give you just the high level of that this evening. But why do we need a housing needs assessment? So this question comes up often, so I thought I would break that down. It does serve as a resource for grant applications, not just for the city, but for other organizations looking for funding, whether it's for housing projects or development projects. A lot of times, rather than just the city or an individual saying, well, we need this, it's data-driven analysis of the housing needs within the city limits of Pittsburgh, and also includes some data for Crawford County. So that's the main reason that we do it, and we want that to be as fresh as we can, so we would typically update that every 4 years. So we would look to do that in 4 years from 2024. It also offers a comprehensive overview of housing needs for builders and developers. You know, we get the question of what does Pittsburgh need, what are you looking for, and then of course they want a report to show that we've done our homework to prove what we need and what the needs are within the city limits. So this breaks down again. There were brief updates in 2015, 2018, and 2022, and then a brand new housing needs assessment that I'm bringing to you this evening was completed in late 24. So in 2014, at the end of each housing needs assessment, they typically will outline areas of recommendations and things that kind of give us a pathway or sets a goal and gives us a vision of things that we can work on or improve. And so these were the original list, 1 through 10. So creating additional moderate to higher income housing near PSU and Via Christi at the time, Mercy now. Enhance housing and amenities in the downtown area. Preserve Pittsburgh's existing single-family housing stock. And you guys can read through the rest, but really as we went through this list in review with Novogradac, it was pretty rewarding to see that we have been able to complete most of these recommendations. So it again proves it was time for a refresh and a new direction and come up with some new goals. So to start it out, typically what they want to do is get a list of stakeholders. So we were able to provide a list of over 90 stakeholders within the community, everything from city commissioners to chamber members, banks, lenders, developers, contractors, anybody that works even remotely in the housing world, which housing affects us all, but we really wanted a wide variety of individuals to tell us what they think we need and tell us about their experiences and what they do and what they think Pittsburgh needs for housing. We held a stakeholder meeting on October 23rd of 2024. That was up at Block 22. And then Novogradac also completed individual interviews with stakeholders to dive a little deeper and get that feedback. And that information is provided in the report as well. So target markets that were identified with the most need was extremely low to low income renters, first-time home buyers, existing owners looking to downsize, and then also existing owners looking to upgrade, and then commuters and new residents to the city of Pittsburgh. These were the 2025 key recommendations that were presented to us from Novogradac, and based on stakeholder feedback and information, these were some of the things that they really thought could set us on a good path for the next 3 to 4 years. With that being said, diversity in the housing supply, or diversify the housing supply, really coming up with what is it that we're missing? Is it townhomes? Is it LIHTC projects? Is it additional housing for Section 8 vouchers? Is it apartments? So really kind of making sure that we can diversify what we offer within the city limits and focus on those types of projects. Also, looking at preserving Pittsburgh's existing single-family housing stock. A lot of our homes were built in the 30s and 40s, so really looking at what we can do to incentivize taking care of those homes before they get too far gone or too dilapidated where they're uninhabitable. So trying to come up with incentives, and one of those incentives is the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, which we have that exists, which is a tax incentive on making improvements on existing structures. So really kind of talking that up, educating development on that, and also kind of pushing that in 2026 so that we can really utilize that program in partnership with the county. And then as you guys can see, you can read the rest, but really just trying to focus on a direction and what we're wanting to improve moving forward. As some brief updates for the housing department, I'm going to invite Megan Keener, our assistant director of housing. She works with a lot of our housing, our public housing authority and our federal programs. So I'll let her talk about this really quick.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a brief update about what we do on a monthly basis. So the Housing Authority, the Pittsburgh Public Housing Authority, houses about 200 to 300 families monthly. And that breaks down to about 278 children and about 145 elderly or disabled individuals. The Housing Authority also has security deposit assistance available. So that helps about 126 households and 303 individuals from 2024 to 2025. And we were just awarded a new $100,000 for 2025. And I like to mention that the security deposit, you do not have to have our rental assistance to qualify for that. With our emergency solutions grant, we have helped 20 households in 2025, and that is for rapid rehousing, which are literally homeless individuals, or homeless prevention, which is trying to prevent homelessness. We rolled out a new program. It's called Foster Youth to Independence. That is helping individuals aging out of foster care to get into housing so they're not homeless. So we currently have 4, and then we have 2 additional seeking housing. And then we are also every day reviewing our policies and procedures to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to serve our community.
Thank you. Pittsburgh Land Bank, we are approaching our 10-year anniversary with our land bank. So that started in 2015. That was one of the recommendations from the 2014 housing assessment. So that has proven to be a great success for us. So total properties sold since we opened and started the land bank is 71. Homes built or planned to be built, we're at 43, which is pretty incredible. Commercial and mixed use sold were 8 properties. And then most recently with our CHIP, our City Housing Incentive Program, partnership with our land bank, we currently have 9 homes being built on previous land bank infill lots. So in less than a year, that's a pretty exciting result. So I will jump to the CHIP again. So for anybody that's not familiar with it, the City Housing Incentive Program is a the goal is to build homes on infill lots and sell to low to moderate income buyers. So it's really to promote single family homes and again, taking up the infill lots just like the land bank and really creating that partnership. But it is an incentive for builders. So if they go and they build the home and then they turn in all of their information on what it costs them to build and they verify that they sell to an income qualified buyer, we would give them 10% of their cost to build at a max of $20,000 incentive. So that goes back to the builder to hopefully turn around and continue to build homes within the city limits of Pittsburgh. That program at this time today has had 1 home that has closed out, and there are 10 homes being built right now in the city of Pittsburgh that are CHIP qualified homes. So you're probably seeing them pop up. We tried to put signs in the front yard so as you're driving around you can see those homes, but those are proving to be a success as well. So with that, I'll open up if you have any questions for Megan and I.
One of the boxes on the recommendations was a land trust. Could you explain what that would look like?
Yeah, so that is very new to us, but it would be basically placing, let's say there's a housing development of 7 homes, and those 7 homes are in a low to moderate income, maybe they're all CHIP homes or a development. You can place those parcels in a land trust where it would maintain that value so that it wouldn't skyrocket if somebody else were to own it and sell it, and you can do that for a temporary amount of time. Like I said, that's very new to us. I'm still learning a lot about that, so but that is one of the recommendations that we can look into and learn a little bit more about.
We sold 71 lots, and 43 are going to be built on? So
since 2015, we've sold, of those 71, 43 of them have homes on them that were built.
The balance are expected to have homes on them?
Yes.
Do we have a rule that says that if you buy one, you got to put a home on it?
There's a development agreement, so whenever someone comes to the land bank or comes to the board and proposes what they want to buy the lot for and what they're going to do to it, the board can then decide and make sure that, you know, if it's a single-family home and they're going to build it within a year, that's within the development agreement so that we can ensure that that lot was sold to someone for that reason, so, yes.
So if somebody has a home and say there's a dilapidated structure next to it and it's removed, cannot the property owner next to it, couldn't they buy that lot to make their lot bigger without having to put a home on it? Isn't that part of the land bank?
If the lot is donated into the land bank, so if a home was dilapidated and it was torn down, but the owner doesn't want to donate to the land bank, then we don't have any say in that. But if they do, and then it's just an empty lot, if someone wants to buy it, they would come to the board and propose that and fill out the paperwork and tell the board why, and then they would vote on it.
That was my understanding. The homeowner next door could buy the lot and just make their yard bigger. They wouldn't have to build a house on it.
It's up to the board, but
Well,
we've seen that happen, so.
I would
Yeah.
like to see,
Yeah.
I think people would like that, requirement to put a house on the lot. I'm not in favor of that, especially if a homeowner wants to make their lot a little bigger and they've had to live by this dilapidated structure forever.
Yeah.
And finally it gets tore down. I think they should have a pretty good option to buy that.
And I wouldn't say they're required to put a home on the lot, as long as it's being put back into productive use and back on the tax rolls, then,
Well, it would be on a
usually the
vacant
board's
lot.
pretty reasonable with that.
They still would be own the property, so
Yeah.
they'd pay,
So
yeah.
what you're saying, Kim, is that the board is probably open to that?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's going back into productive use, but again, I'm not the board,
Right.
so I have
Right.
to be careful where I say that, but
And how often is that board,
once a month, the
no, I
land bank
mean,
board.
is it people on the board for a year, 2 years, or,
I think they're 2-year terms, but I'd
Okay.
have to double check myself on that.
all right?
Kim, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a lady that asked me in general about a land bank property in a neighborhood where the kids all play in the street. And she was concerned about making a playground on the vacant lot. Would that be something that they would consider to keep the kids off the street so they didn't get ran over? Or it would be a neighborhood thing, because I guess there's a lot of kids in this neighborhood.
So like a pocket park, like a small
Mhm,
park
just
within the
a small
neighborhood.
one
I
with-
think it depends on who owns it and who would be presenting to the board their
And
plan
if
and
they
who's
would
gonna
be-
pay to put that on there, yeah.
Okay.
But it would be it's a good solution, I mean, it would,
It
somebody's paying
necessarily
taxes
wouldn't
on
be a
it.
home, but,
Yeah.
when kids have their basketball goals in the street and cars are coming and they're always riding bikes and playing, we don't want a reenactment of this summer.
Yeah, yeah.
Kim, going back to CHIP, can you remind us how that's funded or paid for?
Yeah, so in 2005, there was funding that was granted to the city that had stipulations on it that it had to be used to promote low to moderate income housing. So that fund has a little over $600,000 in it, but $500,000 was allocated to the CHIP account to be able to pay out those incentives. The really wonderful thing about that is hopefully, if everything works out, again, it's new, then that fund is actually replenished by the property tax. So in partnership with USD 250 and the county, they partnered with us to forgo the property tax for the amount of time that pays back the incentive. So if we pay $20,000 to the builder, then the property taxes would pay back into that bucket, so it's a revolving fund until that $20,000 is met, and then it's released to all the taxing entities and would go back to normal. But it's so it should be revolving and would always be there, so that money can just be used for a long time.
Did the bucket start out empty?
The bucket had nothing in it, yeah, so.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. All right, moving on. Consider the following. Ordinance number S 1112, consider approval of ordinance number S 1112, authorizing the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas to issue taxable industrial revenue bonds series 2025 for the Washington School Project in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $6 million for the purpose of purchase, acquiring, constructing, furnishing, and equipping a commercial facility and paying certain costs of issuance thereof, and authorizing execution of bond documents related to issuance, payment, and purchase of the 2025 bonds. Hello?
Hello, Mayor McNay, Commissioners. My name is J.T. Klaus. I'm an attorney and bond counsel with the law firm of Spencer Fane. It's been a while, but you might remember me from Valentine's Day on 2023 when I came here, and you all first considered whether or not this project would be eligible for bonds. A month later, on March 14th, you approved some incentives for this project. Property tax abatement was approved by resolution after a hearing and a cost-benefit analysis. And so tonight, we're really here for the easy part, even though it's taken a while, which is actually to approve the issuance of these bonds, that close out this bond issue and make it a valid and final bond issue for the city. It is an industrial revenue bond. The way those work, that means that what you're approving tonight is that the Washington School will site lease the property to the city, and the city will lease everything with all the new improvements back to the Washington School. The Washington School will sign a lease that has rental payments that magically equal the principal and interest payments on the bonds. This is considered a conduit financing, and by that I mean it's a special revenue bond. The city's not obligated to pay it. If there's a default, only the Washington School is obligated to pay the principal and interest on the bonds. You are basically just lending your authority for the issuance of the industrial revenue bonds, because that's how we get the sales tax exemption and property tax abatement you now approved 2 years ago. So that's the ordinance that's before you. I want to tell you there is one change in the ordinance from your packet. It refers to a payment in lieu of tax in the ordinance. And in final review, we took that out. We just took that section out because there's not actually a payment in lieu of tax on this. This is a when we went back and reviewed your approvals, it was a 100% tax abatement that you approved for this project. That being said, not 100% of the taxes are abated. There are taxes under state law, like the mill levy for the school district's capital outlay, that cannot be abated, and so those taxes will still come due, and the Washington School will have to pay those. But certainly the city taxes and the majority of all other taxes are abated through this process. I want to answer any questions you have, and if you have any questions, I'm imagining that you've driven by and you've seen the substantial change in the property over the last 2 years from the building that was there. So hopefully you feel like you made a good decision to provide this for the citizens of Pittsburgh. But I just want to answer any questions you have.
So how long those taxes are abated? How many years?
It's 100% for 10 years.
And then it goes back to, I mean, they're paying tax on like there was nothing done to it, or they're not paying tax on anything?
They're not going to pay tax for 10 years, except these taxes that are unabatable at law, like the one I can think of off the top of my head is the school district's capital outlay. And then yes, unless the use of the property changes, it'll go back on the tax rolls. You know, it's a subsidiary of Point Forward, and it's a not-for-profit, but it's not a hospital, it's not a school, so this is an incentive to them, and yes, it would go back on the tax rolls at the end of that time period.
Did it start in '23, whenever we approved it then, as far as the abatements?
Oh no, the abatement starts the year after the bonds are issued, so there really hasn't been any significant taxes on the facility because of course it hasn't been completed, but they're working the punch list now. It's complete, so the tax abatement starts in 2026, the year after in which the bonds are issued.
So that March 14th, 23, what did we approve that night?
You approved tax abatement on the finished project once the bonds were issued. So basically you approved what you would be doing tonight.
So tonight is just approving the ordinance that supports that vote.
It actually supports the issuance of the bonds that
bonds.
are necessary for that to all take effect.
So then, Darren, what's the next step for us?
This is it.
Okay, so we don't,
There
we're not in charge.
there were 3 steps, and as I said that first night, this is the third and final step. Once these bonds are issued, the only time this might become before the commission again would be when the bonds are completely paid off. They will exercise their right to have the site lease and the lease terminated, and all of my work tonight will completely go away. It will be erased at that point. So there's a little option at the end that you might hear from them in 10 years on, but it's usually a consent agenda item. It's not something that specifically gets considered.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Doc, seconded by Stu to approve ordinance number S-11112. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Mr.
time.
Claus. And, let's see, the ribbon cutting is tomorrow at 9 at Washington School for Growing Eden. Moving on to item B, Pittsburgh State University Outdoor Track and Field Project. Consider the recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, EDAC, to allocate $1 million from the revolving loan fund to support the Pittsburgh State University Outdoor Track and Field Project, with the funds to be paid over a 10-year project.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the Commission. I'm here tonight to present a recommendation from the Economic Development Advisory Committee related to an exciting project on the Pittsburgh State campus that I know many in our community have seen take shape. It's an outdoor track facility on Ford Street that would really be a great complement to the Plaster Indoor Event Center and Track facility that has created an incredible economic impact to our community, and it's easy for our residents to see the economic impact that the indoor track facility has had, because generally any weekend from January through the spring, you can drive down Broadway and you see school buses lining Broadway, patronizing our restaurants. You can drive by our hotel parking lots and see full of buses. So what this project would do, and I'm going to ask a couple of representatives from Pittsburgh State to talk more about it, will really just further that economic impact on through the spring and the summer. So it's a sizable project. They did present to the Economic Development Advisory Committee last week, and so I've got a recommendation on that. But first I want to invite President Thomas Newsom from Pittsburgh State and Athletic Director Jim Johnson, who will walk you through the details. We've got a slide deck that we'll pull up here. Right there, okay. All right, all yours.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Blake, and thank you all for giving us the opportunity to visit with you a little bit about this. I wasn't told I would have to speak and visit with you and work a PowerPoint, so this could be a challenge. But you see a rendering there that I'll leave up just for a second and give you just a little bit of background that we shared with the group last week. As far as why new outdoor track, many of you have obviously, all of you have been in Carney Smith Stadium, know we have a track there. But we realized probably in 21, 22, along with the growth of our track and field program, that we were going to have to do substantial renovations, repairs to that track. We've done repairs for several years in spots, but really we're to the point that that wasn't any longer a feasible way to keep that track a viable and safe facility for our student athletes and for competition. So it was spend a lot of money to fix that track, probably $2 or north of $2 million, or look at building a new facility between the Bicknell Center for the Arts and the Technology Center. We had some discussions going on about getting some traction with this project in spring of '22, and then we quickly turned our attention to getting our soccer field, soccer pitch built, and our soccer program up and running, and that's proved to be a really good investment as they won the MIAA regular season championship last week, so I just thought I would throw that in. But so we kind of put this project on hold for a little bit, thought we could get through another probably year with the track that we had. Another issue with the track in the stadium that you're probably aware of, as track has changed over the sport of track's changed over the years since that facility was built. It's even if we did spend a lot of money on that track and got it up to where it would be a safe facility for practice and competition, it would still only be a 6-lane track, and we can no longer host competitions on a track that's not 8 or 9 lanes. So the only way to fix that was take down the rock wall, and I don't think any of us have any plans for that to happen. So we moved ahead with this project, refocused on it, after the soccer pitch was done and the soccer program was up and running. And you'll see sort of this is sort of the grand plan years from now. As you see the stands, the bleachers, this would be, we've looked at this in really 3 or 4 phases, and what you see here would be more the finished rendering that would be several years down the road. See, I told you.
Maybe not. Sorry.
How about that one?
Yep,
There we
that
go.
works.
But as Blake mentioned, I think it would be good to just talk for a second and give you a little background that maybe you already know of how we use the model of the Plaster Center that the city, the county, the university all partnered on, and hard to believe that that's been 10 years ago. We opened that facility in April of 2015. We hosted our first track season in there in the winter of 2016 and hosted the Division II National Meet in March of that year. And that facility, as Blake said, has, I think, exceeded everyone's expectations. Just a couple of data points. Since starting in January or December of 15, I guess, January of 16, that facility's hosted 87 track meets, which brought somewhere north of 115,000 people to Pittsburgh. That's probably a low number, because if you've been in a track meet, it's mass chaos. There's what seems like 1 million people in there, and there's been 87 of those, which I don't think we would have projected that number over that period of time when that facility was built. In addition to that, the Fort State Farm Show's been there recently, the Kansas to the Stars dinner. We have an athletic fundraiser in there that's up to about 800 people. Special Olympics. So that facility, I think everyone agrees, has really delivered what we all collectively thought it would over that period of time. So we hope to follow that same model with this outdoor facility, and we would, as you know, as Blake mentioned, the construction's already started on that facility. We went to the Kansas Board of Regents, I believe. What month was back? Yeah, back early in the fall, and they approved the project, funding for the project through private funding, as long as it was private funding. And we that cap on that, we're still a little south of what that cap, but we're still in the construction phases. So we feel pretty good about that. All the dirt work's done. Obviously, the construction is well underway. So we think we're in really good shape cost-wise on that. We had a handout that I believe that maybe you have that listed what some of the possibilities would be with an outdoor facility. Some of which we can do now, some of which we can't with the track that's in Carney Smith Stadium. But I believe that chart that you have on the sheet listed the possibilities of 14 different types of track events that could come to that facility, the numbers that would generate in terms of participants, fans, et cetera, and then what the spending, labor, income, economic impact of that facility could be over time. I do want to be clear that Vista, with some folks this morning that came out and toured the construction side and toured the facility, that those are not 14 a year. That's just basically a list, sort of a menu of everything that could be possible. Probably looking at that over a 5-year period would be fair. Some of those are on a rotation basis that we know we'll have. Some of them are things that we would have to collectively work with CVB and others to bid on. But the one thing I can tell you about outdoor track, even different than indoor track, is that they are looking for places to have those events. There's just not very many of them. And I can speak specifically about the NCAA Division II national meet. We as a division, as a membership division, NCAA are going to places like Grand Valley and Emporia State that have hosted it in the past and asking them to please take it again because we're not getting any bids. So I think our chances of doing that in the future are pretty substantial. Folks like to come to Pittsburgh. They love to come here for the indoor meet, the location, the quality of the facility, the way the meets are run. our volunteer base, our officials base that we have access to, Northwest Arkansas, Northeast Oklahoma, Kansas City, not very many places in the country have access to that officials base, which is really important when it comes to running track meets. But, so, a lot of opportunity there. In some ways, probably even more opportunities than maybe what existed 10 years ago with an indoor track. The one piece that we talked specifically with the Economic Development Group about is when we started construction of this and looked at what phase one would be, that included all the track and field facility pieces, obviously, and it included some storage buildings and some things that we would have, we could get out of the stadium by this spring, and we could have, Coach Rutledge doesn't like this terminology, but the best practice facility in America. But we obviously want to host meets in there as well. We kind of set the seating and the lighting as a sort of as an alternate or as an add-on to that phase one, if and when we could secure the funding for that. What has happened since then, and the reason for meeting with the EDAC last week, was we have an opportunity to host the MIAA Outdoor Championships the first weekend of May of 26. Obviously, we have to have seating and lights to do that. We thought we might be later in the rotation on hosting that meet, but some things changed with some other institutions, some other communities, and it was our turn in the rotation. So we either have to tell them we'll be ready to do that, or we'll have to pass, and if we pass, it'll be several years before we get that opportunity again. So that's when we moved the lighting and the seating kind of up the list to make it part of phase one with the rest of the components that were already there. And the last slide just kind of indicates what I just said of why we added that lighting and seating. So that's really a really broad, quick overview of a very complicated and extensive project. And you've been down Ford Street, so you've seen it come to life. There will be a video board that we've had a donor want to participate in the project and provide a video board that will be there on Ford Street. The facility will be all fenced in, and we're making sure that part that's facing Ford Street with the fencing and the video board is a nice addition to that part of the community. So we can certainly answer any questions, or Blake,
I will speak briefly to the recommendation from the EDAC. So as your paperwork mentions, it is a $10 million project. So the request of the city through the revolving loan fund would be for $1 million. Very important to point out that would be paid out over 10 years. So it wouldn't be such a one-time hit to the RLF. But the recommendation from the EDAC, the unanimous recommendation, is to award that $1 million for this project. I believe you're also in talks with the county for a similar request. So the EDAC's understanding was that the city's funding would complement the same level of funding from the county because they operate the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Explore Crawford County, because this will obviously impact hotel stays. So that is the recommendation from the EDAC, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So it'd be over 10 years, 100,000 a year?
Yes, sir.
What is this projected 137,000? Is that over 10 years? Is that?
Would be from Michael's. Was it Michael Davidson? Yes. Mm-hmm. I think Pittsburgh State asked Michael Davidson to do those economic projections. As Jim mentioned when they met with the EDAC, those are just projections, but I would imagine, Commissioner, production and import taxes, that would just be on the different activity that would come along with the project itself.
So that could be potentially 137 a year, or for over the 10-year?
So this is a 5-year projection.
5 years.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So is that every year or over 5 years?
I think that's over the total of 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Jim, I have a question, put you on the spot, I know you'll love that.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Just a ballpark, track and field student athletes, how many do we bring to the?
130, 140, men and women.
And safe to say the Plaster Center has been a huge recruiting tool for that, and the repeat national championships.
Say it's certainly a factor.
And I don't think this is gonna hurt anything. So, but my point is those students are in our community, buying gas, buying food, buying, gorilla swag, whatever the case may be. But so that I think that's important to keep that in mind too, that we're not only have a history of national championships, but we also are recruiting, growing the program and having that. So has that grown over time?
Yeah.
Coach Rutledge?
That's a good point, Stu. It has, without the Plaster Center and with the limited amount of locker room space and things we used to have, and the limited amount of room on the outdoor track and using that for indoor and outdoor practice prior to the Plaster Center, our numbers were probably maybe 80 or 90 total for both teams. So certainly that's grown. And there's no doubt the Plaster Center and then this would just up the game even more from a recruiting standpoint. I love to use Coach Jewett's line when we were talking about the Plaster Center when he said, we still have to work hard in recruiting, but this is the tiebreaker. And so this'll make that tiebreaker times 2.
Could you, share again what the amount of private funding toward this is?
Yeah, as Blake mentioned, but I think the numbers, we just had a call this morning after the tour, and we're still waiting on to tighten some numbers down on a couple of pieces. This project, building a track, I've learned, is much different than building lots of other facilities, because you have to be at a certain point for them to spray that track that they sprayed here a few weeks ago. That had to happen in September, early October. It's the only time of year you can do that, so that kind of dictates the schedule. So because of that, unlike a conventional construction project that you know every dime and every detail prior to the start, this one's been a little bit different. We're at about 10.8 or 9 under the $12 million that the board approved. Obviously, we still have a ways to go. Some of that could change. We were hoping to get some tighter numbers on the seating and press box before the end of the day today, but we didn't get that. So, and we're probably about, if the city and county did want to partner and kind of take the lots and seating piece off of the table, we're still probably $2.5 million that we still have to raise, but we feel really good about that. We obviously have some folks that are interested that haven't given us a number yet, and we do have some that are involved already, but anonymously. So, but in Pittsburgh, the fundraising base here, as you all know, is just phenomenal, and people really step up and help with these projects. So we continue to work on that between now and April, but we feel good about where we are.
I'm really amazed at the men's and women's teams have had back-to-back championships all the time, and that more money wouldn't have been in the queue for donated towards the project.
Yeah.
Because, that's not an easy feat, for one. And then going back to the $137,000 that he was talking about, you said over 5 years, only $137,000? I would think
Well, no,
that,
but that was just,
I
I
would think
think
that there would
what
be a
that
lot-
was production and import taxes.
Oh.
I'm not sure what exactly. The overall economic impact, according to Michael Davidson, for that 5-year stretch would be just over $3 million total.
oh, 3 million,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, the red line
I
on the
missed
bottom.
that, sorry, okay.
So Blake, I have a question. In terms of
I agree.
activities that bring the most people to Pittsburgh, just in general, because we know that our RLF funds our sales tax, what would those be?
Large events that bring people to town. Certainly, the university is right at the top. That, along with our business travel, makes up the majority of our hotel stays. And something to add, going back to the Plaster Center, what that really did, and we just know this because of our relationship with Explorer Crawford County, which is the tourism division of the arm, tourism arm of the county. That spring timeframe, that's when our hotels were the slowest. A lot of people would think that summer would be the slowest for our hotels. They're actually fairly busy, but it's really the January through April timeframe. It can be hard to attract people to Pittsburgh, Kansas when it's cold and it's dark and there's not a whole lot going on. Combine that with the fact that for our retailers, that's also when they tend to see a dip in sales because it's post-holiday. People haven't received their income tax refunds yet. So to be able to bring all those visitors to our community for multi-day events and have them eating in our restaurants, shopping in our stores is really been a big economic boon. And so now to basically see this extend over half of the year from January on into the summer is something that we're very excited about.
Do we have the hotel capacity to take care of this?
We do. We do. We are still, especially with the closure of the Lamplighter Inn, we are getting looks from other prospective hotels that are looking at that capacity because the numbers are now starting to near where they think Pittsburgh maybe could support an additional hotel. I don't want to promise that just yet, but something like this would make us even more attractive to attract future hotels.
Well, visiting with you guys this morning, it sounds like if that hotel, I just heard you talking about possible, but it sounds like if we get this going, we're gonna help the city of Joplin also economically. Because we don't have enough places for the people to stay.
We certainly, especially thanks to Pittsburgh State, when they have a large event, we fill every hotel room in town, and fortunately for our neighbors, in the area, they get some of that overflow. But having things like this really helps convince hoteliers that we have a stable, steady, influx of visitor traffic instead of just one big event a year, and they're not going to build a hotel just for one big event. But if we're able to say for 6 months, just about every weekend, you're going to be full with track participants. Then during the week, you're going to be full of business travelers visiting Watco and Miller's and some of our local businesses. That really helps convince them that we could support another one.
Any other questions for the team?
Move to accept.
Seconded.
Moved by Doc, seconded by Chuck. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item C, streetlight improvement project. Consider staff recommendation to 1, increase the lumens of existing streetlights where possible. 2, add additional lighting to 182 locations with existing poles nearby. And 3, add an additional utility pole and light fixture to 140 locations with the annual increase in the city's street light fees to be approximately $99,900.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here today to talk about the streetlight project that was initiated back in February of this year. City leadership and other departments within the city discussed how we could improve the street lighting within the city. It's a proven cost-effective way to increase both the perceived and real safety within the city. So the initiative was started to evaluate the current city lighting infrastructure, identify areas where there could be improved lighting, whether that's brighter or adding additional lighting. The police department took lead on that and took a 2-month survey of the city, which included driving down every street in the city to evaluate the needs of that block. With that, we also took recommendations from police department data, other advisory boards, and city leadership as far as what we wanted to see. At the end of that, we identified approximately 460 areas of recommendation to include tree lighting, brightening existing lighting, adding a street light where there's an additional pole nearby, and then areas where there's no poles that we identified there needs to be an additional street light. So, like I said, overall, approximately 460 locations could use some help. There were about 90 locations that identified that trees needed trimmed around the street light. There was an existing light, but because of the growth in the trees, the street light canopy the light canopy couldn't make it down to the street. The decision was made to have city personnel trim those trees to save some cost and to get those issues addressed immediately. I believe those have already been addressed. So the next steps, the next recommendations we have is to simply turn up the lighting with the existing lights that we have where applicable. We don't want to turn them up everywhere. If there's areas that may impact somebody's residence, then we don't necessarily want to impact or to increase that. But overall, where we can, increase the existing lighting within the city, as well as add lights to poles in an area where it's identified. Those numbers are, 182 locations where simply adding a pole to an existing light, as well as 140 locations that need additional lighting that do not have a pole nearby. So a pole and a light would need to be added. I've got a few photos here I'll pull up. So the purple areas here are areas that have been identified that need additional lighting where there's an existing pole nearby. So simply adding a light fixture to that pole is all that's needed in these locations. The yellow here is locations of the 140 locations where additional lighting is needed. However, there's no pole nearby within that block. So these are the areas where additional poles and lights are recommended. And this last photo is just an overlay of those two areas where lights are recommended to be added where there's either no existing poles or poles nearby where a light fixture can be added. Although the police department did take the lead of this project, and I'm up here speaking with you, many city personnel took part in this project. Members from City Hall, Parks and Rec, our analyst, GIS, all took part in that, so I want to make sure and give them thanks in that, with that assistance. But that's the overview of the streetlight project and the recommendations that the city's implemented back in February. So I'm here for any question you might have.
So when you showed this to us at our workday in May, I seem to recall that we also overlaid crime, especially property crime, with those areas. And there was a correlation between, this is a question, there was a correlation between higher property crime and low lighting areas?
Yes, that's correct. We did use some of the police department data in reference to property crime. And there was a direct correlation in some areas, not everywhere, but in some areas where there was identified areas that needed additional lighting were also some property crime hotspots. So this would assist in some of those efforts as well.
When you talk about turning the lumens up, you go from what, 4,800 to 78? What is 48? What they're set at right now?
Yeah. So currently, most of the lights in town have two settings on them where they're either low or high. Currently, they're on low. So simply just adjusting them from the low to high setting is.
But you're talking about LED. The downtown lighting is not LED, right?
I'm not positive on the downtown.
Because it seems dark. A lot of people complain about the downtown seems dark.
So the downtown is an area that was discussed, and efforts are going to be put in that area as well.
I'd like to see that because that's a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah.
And say, for instance, behind the Best Hotel right now on the north parking lot, that is awesome. If that was that way all through town at night, and then the other one is where the overpass was done, and then you head off to the east side, it's dark through there, really dark. And they never put the lights back up there. Is that, I see it on your map, I see that gap right there. Is that a consideration?
So we mainly focused our efforts in the residential areas, the residential neighborhoods and in those areas. What I didn't mention also is after the completion of this project, once all the additions have been made, additional surveys will be made. We'll go back out and drive around and identify areas where there's gaps that can be filled in the future as well. So I don't think we're going to address every dark area this go around, but hopefully in the future, once we identify those additional gaps, we'll be able to fill those as well.
I just know until you got the lights on top of the overpass, it was like you were headed into space.
Yes.
And then on the downhill go, it was dark. But so you're recommending all three?
Yeah, my recommendation is to make all three.
And it's not out of the question to add the downtown at some point also?
Oh, no, the downtown I think is going to get some attention as well, including the alleyways.
Well, I know Darren had talked about those down lighting, like over here, the test one at 3rd and Broadway. That's awesome too, but.
Yeah, Kim might want to talk about the downtown development.
Those make a difference because the other lights are so high and they seem so dim, it's just.
Yeah.
And then once you get out of the main area, the downtown, the LEDs light up everything and.
And these lights are not in the 99,000 that you see in the package. This is
the down lighting is not in it. Is that what you're saying? like the ones at Third, the test?
Yeah,
one?
so that's your, right in front of the Fox is your test. So we're testing with Rival Time Products for just the downtown decorative poles. There's 74 poles that stretch from 11th Street to south down to Pritchett Pavilion. So they're highlighted on that map on the right. And so we were trying to come up with an example of something that would illuminate the sidewalks and really brighten it up. So that's still in test mode. So we would come back to you, of course, with that request. But that's what it looks like, and then that's the design. So if you get a chance, go look at it right out front of the Fox, and it really highlights the sidewalk as well.
So, but those are not, that's not included in
That's
this?
$753 per pole. And the question is really, do we want to do every pole? Do we want to do every other pole? And I think Kim has numbers on. It's another 60,000 for the whole.
And so this money, the 99.9, or is it coming out of the safety sales tax because of crime and that? I would like to see it out of that. Where's the money coming from?
Right now, it's budgeted in the general fund
In
with
the
all the other
general
street
fund?
lighting costs.
So the public safety sales tax, was it ever thought about coming out of that fund?
I think
Because
that
of-
maybe was a consideration, but since this is an ongoing expense, that could go longer than the public safety sales tax, I think that's.
The public, so the public safety sales tax is for another
So we
10
have,
years?
we have several sales taxes. Each one has been passed by a vote of the people. So they have very stringent language in it that expressly says whether it's for streets or this, economic development, what it can be spent for. So whenever we're looking at an unfunded initiative like this was one of the goals on my list for this year. So here we are at the end of the year looking at it. We wouldn't just presume to throw it in with the public safety sales tax. We built it into the budget because that's where all of our other street lighting is, but it doesn't mean you as commissioners couldn't make the call that you think it is a public safety issue. To Adon's point, this has an expiration date on it, so if that's the case and it isn't renewed, then it could fall back onto the general fund. But right now, we budgeted it in the general fund where all the other street lighting is. But that's your, we'll follow your lead.
Was it a 10-year?
Yeah.
And it was 20, or we just did it like last year, didn't we?
Did it two years ago?
23.
I think it's 23 to 33.
Because I'm telling you, people feel safer when it's lit up like a runway.
But I think that's important because street paving, if we don't have it, if it doesn't get renewed, then we'll just stop street paving. Anything that we tie that's long-term ongoing to one of these taxes like that, we need to be real careful. We don't want to leverage the community and go back and say, hey, you have to pass this or we're turning off 4,000 lights. I mean, that's not going to be, doesn't mean we couldn't make the case for it. I think our personal preference would be to use the public safety sales tax, but we usually don't come out of the chute with, hey, let's use it unless it's expressly outlined in that language that we passed, so.
So for this first year, in theory, you've incorporated into the budget. So in ongoing years, that may be an option to move it to the street sales tax, depending on what your feelings are.
I mean, we can do whatever you like, yeah.
Well,
I was just, it was more of curiosity than anything.
No, I mean, it's a
Because
legitimate
if
question.
The
It's
police
just-
department has investigated all, of and we all know about the areas, so,
That's why we're trying to improve it all.
yes, absolutely.
Well, the property tax traditionally goes for operating police, fire, administration,
But
so
it's already, you've already put it in the budget.
Yeah.
it's already
So let's
accounted
go-
for.
I would be in favor of going with it as it is in the budget. And if we have to come back next year or the year after and do something else, then we can talk about utilizing the other funds.
I don't think Adon cares as long as we tell him yes, but I think that's a good point.
Turn out the
Thanks for
lights.
clarifying it for you
And
guys.
regardless of where the money comes, as long as people feel safe where they live, and,
Well,
I think
we're trying to increase the quality of life.
sure,
for citizens,
absolutely.
of course.
And keep in
And I
mind,
appreciate the job you guys did on that.
keep in mind, we don't know how it's gonna look. We have one pole out there. We went and turned a couple of them up from low to high and saw how they looked. I mean, we're talking about thousands of lights, so it should be a pretty interesting year. Once, because Evergy's been a good partner on this, and they have a rollout plan. This isn't gonna happen in a week.
Does that have to be a
But,
physical adjustment on the light, or is that something they do remotely?
I think just turning them up is a physical adjustment. When you talk about putting in new poles and putting lights on new poles, those are going to be multi-year rollouts. That's not everything is not going to get done this year, but we would definitely like your approval to start moving that way. And I think the biggest question left is what to do with the downtown. Do you want us to?
Well, I'd just like to weigh in on, because I've talked to you about this during the other day, and you use crime data to locate some of these areas and neighborhoods that need more lighting. So to me, that's a public safety issue. I don't know how many more years we have on the last public safety sales tax that got approved. But in my mind, $100,000 out of our budget, I think people expect us to find ways to lower expenditures out of the general fund. So my recommendation would be to use public safety sales tax for as long as we can. And if it doesn't get approved again, which in my mind, I think we've sold to people, what is it, the second time, 10 years, public safety sales tax? So what I'm saying is I think we ought to use public safety sales tax. If it doesn't get approved again, whatever the amount is, then we can take a smaller amount out of the budget. But I think this is something we need to look at on the public safety sales tax.
Would you be open to kind of splitting it, or is that too confusing between general and?
No, we can do, I mean,
As opposed to
we
taking.
could easily do that.
So would we be able to do the Broadway downtown businesses if we did that? Or Chuck, is that something you would?
I'm not talking about Broadway right now. That's gotta be something that after we look at the lights and whatever it is.
But my question, since it's budgeted, and if we agreed to take
And do the
some of
downtown
it,
part for,
Out of safety
oh,
sales
safety
tax.
sales tax?
or whatever, however you want to.
Because then Kim could look at the lights that is needed for the down, and then the main ones.
Well, they also get it out of the general fund.
Not if we can avoid it.
Yeah, they still do.
For operations.
What's that? I didn't hear that.
Say,
Police and fire also receive funds from the general fund. It's not just public safety
Right.
sales
Correct.
tax.
Yeah, and that's kind of our point, is when we passed that public safety sales tax for police and fire, it was pretty specific about what we were gonna spend it on. And, now part of it was definitely, hardware and software and things to give us a robust system to do a lot of our preventive crime. But this is definitely, public safety, no doubt about it, but
It's not specifically spelled out.
that's why we put it in the general fund, because I didn't want to have you in here telling me, well, what in the heck did you stick it in there for? It's not a fire truck.
Right.
The one place I know it fits without any question is in the general fund, and it's supported with property tax, but we will do whatever you want. We can put it anywhere, we can split it.
Or we
My
can-
biggest concern, long range financially, was what happens when, I just don't want to go back and tell people, well, we spent all this stuff on long-term operating, and so you have to pass this tax or you're gonna lose a third of your lights.
Well, the other thing to remember it's a sales tax. I mean, we are dependent on how sales tax goes every year in our community. So we know what our general fund's gonna look like next year.
I think, to Chuck's point, I think it's a very good point. Personally, like I said to you the other day, I'd love to put it in the public safety sales tax because it eases the general fund. But maybe for now, we just leave it where it's budgeted since the budget's passed. And this year, when we work on the budget, we take a look at maybe shifting it out or whatever part of it you think should come out of it at that time.
when would you start after approval?
We'd have conversations with Evergy about the decision and ask them to move forward. We've been in conversation with them the last several months.
She said pretty quick.
And then the other part would be on our radar as far as the lights Kim's talking about and the downtown.
What's the feedback on the downtown, the light that's up at Third? Is that,
been good.
people like it?
Yeah, so we have two tests. So there's one right in front of the new Kels building on 3rd Street, and it was a little bit of a different model, and it wasn't just quite as bright. So he designed the alternate right in front of the Fox. And so in comparing the two, we're getting a lot of really good feedback off the one in front of the Fox, just because the whole sidewalk's illuminated out to the street.
I think the business owners were definitely like that. That's
Yeah.
why that downtown is such an issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
But you said use it out of the general fund, and then when we start looking sometime after the first year, I think we need to start looking at the budget and maybe find some money elsewhere. What you were saying?
Well, leave it as general fund this year, and then when you start working on the budget for 2027, consider where the funding might come, knowing that you will probably also have expenditures for the downtown, so.
The 99, by the time we're working on the budget, we're not even, we won't have spent all that. Putting in lights and putting in poles is going to be a very planned thing with Evergy that's going to take months and months and months. So yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody to think we're going to blow through $100,000 by February 1st putting lights in, because it's going to, this is the cost for the whole year, and it's cost over time of implementing it. So we'll have time to go back and say, okay, what do we think? I think Henry's usually the one that tells me, look, don't mess with the language and the sales taxes, because you're going to have to be accountable for it, when it's time to renew it, and what you did with it. So we can go through all that this year and figure out just where the best place is to put it. Maybe it is a split. Maybe we do half of it general fund or whatever, but we have time to make those decisions.
I'll move to approve the request.
Second.
Moved by Stu, seconded by Doc. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Detective. Moving on to item D, Limelight Marketing LLC website development. Consider staff recommendation to approve an amendment to the master services agreement with Limelight Marketing LLC for the development, testing, and deployment of a new city website in the amount of $154,000.
Mayor and Commissioners, 10 years ago, we had a website that was provided by a different vendor. It was rigid. It was hard to make any changes to. We couldn't post things ourselves. We had to actually get the company who managed the website to do all the work. It ended up, we did a cost benefit at the time and found out that it was quite expensive, because every time we wanted to change it, there was a cost associated with any kind of little change we made. It wasn't very responsive. It wasn't very user friendly. Anyway, we were pretty unsatisfied with it. Right? At the time, we said we really need to have a brand new website. So about 9 years ago, we took quotes on generating a new website, and at the time, Limelight stepped up and told us they would build a website for us, and they are currently managing it. This website that they designed really suited our needs very well. It was much more user-friendly. It allowed us to actually update the content on a regular basis, and they didn't charge us fees here and there. We're getting nickeled and dimed to death by the other website provider. And in the time that we've had them as our website provider, we've been very happy with what they've done. We have a master services agreement with Limelight to perform a variety of activities around that website and some other technical things that they do for us. And we'd like now, it's time, the current website has kind of reached its life. The technologies behind it are obsolete now. A lot of them are aged out, and we'd like to renew it. There's a number of things that would make our website, which is our primary source of interacting with the public online. We'd like to make that more modern, more streamlined, and add some more functionality to it. And I have Brandy and John Kiffler with Brandy Johnson, to talk a little bit about what their plans are and why it's important to have the upgrade at this point.
Oh, I see it.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commission. Thank you for having us tonight to talk a little bit about the website proposal that we've submitted to the city for consideration. We're going to kind of spend a bit of time talking about that. We've had a chance to look over it, so we'll also leave time for questions. So I wanted to start with a brief introduction. As Jay mentioned, Limelight Marketing, when we built the city's current website, it was about 10 years ago. Limelight Marketing was a brand new agency, had about 3 team members, and in that time, we've grown and expanded a lot alongside the city that's grown and evolved. As Jay mentioned, in addition to building the site, We've continued to partner with the city over the course of those last 10 years to provide support and maintenance as needed. As Jay said, the site offers a lot of flexibility to the city staff itself to do a lot of the maintenance, so it requires less reliance on a third party. But when support is needed, we've continued to partner with the city and provide that support needed. So our team has a very deep understanding of the city site, the current technology, some of the things that have worked well, some of the challenges that it's now facing. One thing we wanted to talk a little bit about is it's more than just a website redesign. So when we use the word website redesign, it may send the signal that it's, you know, beautifying the aesthetic or the user interface of the site, which it will in fact do that. But it's much more than that. It is actually a complete new technology, a new digital infrastructure for the city. So as the city physically has grown and evolved and shifted infrastructure and improved infrastructure over the last 10 years, the site, it's time to do that as well. As Jay mentioned, the site has served the city well for the past 10 years, but it has aged. The technology it's on has aged. And the new site is not only going to deliver a better user experience, it will be up to par with new technologies, tracking capabilities that are now available, offering some benefits to the staff and to the city. So I wanted to touch base on some of the highlights of the project and what it would deliver in terms of an optimized digital experience. So the first is a more inclusive user journey. So as the site has grown and evolved over the last 10 years, a lot of content has been added into it. And just like kind of adding on to a house over the course of time, it gets a little bit wonky. And so while the new site will allow an easier way for citizens, businesses, and visitors to navigate the city site and find the information that they most commonly need and want to find. To that note, we've incorporated into the scope of work doing user testing. So Limelight has a very structured process that we use repeatedly for building websites. And at certain milestones, we have certain checkpoints, and one of those will be actually engaging citizens in our community and prospective website visitors to have them do some testing on the proposed prototype for the website so that we can catch early on any potential improvements that we may want to make to the site, so that when we go into the actual coding stage of the project, that we have confidence that it's built easy so that users can easily find the information they need. Also, just like home building and other things evolve aesthetically, the same happens with digital design. And so again, while the city site has served its purpose well over these years, it does have a more dated visual design experience. And so this upgrade will allow for us to look more modern, which is attractive to those who are looking at our city and visiting the website. We've also included 3 very unique design concepts. What you could consider this to be is if you were building a custom home and your architect or your builder brought forth 3 different approaches to accomplish your overall objectives in your home build, and you could see how those are different and compare them and then choose an ultimate direction or kind of pick pieces that you like from each. This project will enable the city staff to do the same. So we'll bring, after we go through and have a really deep understanding of the goals of the site and the user journeys, we'll bring 3 unique examples for the design direction, look and feel for the site for feedback, and then we'll iterate and go forward with the one that is selected. I've mentioned on new technology, again, it's more than just a reskin. It's actually implementing new technology to bring forth new capabilities that are not available on the site today. And then another really important deliverable will be ADA compliance. So making sure that the site is easy for everyone to use, whether you have visual impairments or hearing impairments, that the site can be accessible by everyone, which is extremely important from a legal perspective, especially for city and municipality entities. John's going to step in and cover some of the technical pieces. I guess I didn't introduce ourselves in the beginning, so let me step back and introduce myself and John. So I am Brady Johnson. I'm the owner of Limelight Marketing, and John is my business partner. We made an acquisition of his software development company in 2021, and he came on as partner. He leads our website process overall and would be overseeing this project, so he'll talk through some of the technical aspects.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight here is that the use cases for the website for our city are very broad and deep. And so It's everything from being a front door to pay the bills, reserving and paying for tickets for events. There's actually a sub-site for Memorial Auditorium on the city's website. Signing up for activities through things like Parks and Rec, which is very important for our community. Reserving available spaces, buildings, public fields, facilities, things like that. Applying for jobs and licenses in a secure way. Being in the know about local activities, calendar of events, really, really important for our community. I know I use that all the time to see what's going on and where I can take my kids to do things and so on. Signing up for services, and then reporting issues as well. So it's more than just a bunch of content. It's really like a living front door for city services, and we want to ensure and will ensure through this project that everything is accounted for, easy to use, that real people in our community have tested it, which is one of the benefits of us being here. We will go out and we will get folks from various walks of life and who have various needs to test everything we're putting together. So we're confident that it's gonna work really, really well for them. So in addition to that, one of the things at Limelight that we do, we work on websites very small and very, very large. And this website is going to be somewhere in the middle to upper end of the complexity spectrum because of all the different integrations, services, use cases, and so on that are offered by it. The other thing that's important as part of this website build is, all municipal websites have a bit of a target on their back right now, and so security, ensuring that there's no ways that it can be impacted by those types of events is really important. I think one thing that's worth highlighting is when we had that ransomware attack a few years ago, the website was one of the few things that, in terms of the city's real estate that did not go down, and we have been hosting it throughout that time. So we take that stuff really seriously, and that goes into the build. A lot of integrations, automations and workflows, permissions for the people at the city so the right people can update the right content, post the right jobs, things like that. That's all part of how we build our websites, and as Brandy mentioned, I lead that process, and we have a very rigorous process for making sure that everything is QA'd, everything is checked, everything is high quality when it goes out the door. Okay, the other thing, you have this scope of work in front of you, so not going to get too in-depth here, but we have a lot of stuff included in the overall scope of work for the build, so we've detailed out that all out in the proposal to you. But we take a very rigorous process through this, so everything from architecting the website up front, which is like getting the blueprints for your house done, to the design, which will be modern and beautiful and represent everything that's great about our city, to having our local community and users test, to those creative concepts Brandy talked about, the actual development and build training, which is another benefit of us being here with you, as we can come and train city staff and everybody who needs to work on the website in person as you need to make sure that you are well equipped to avoid the situation that Jay talked about where you get nickeled and dimed by a vendor because you can't make the updates yourself. So all of that's in our scope, and we're happy to answer any questions about it once we get through our last couple of slides here. But that's my part. I'm going to hand it back to Brandy.
Okay. We wanted to give you a look at the team who would be working on the project. While this isn't all-inclusive and there are others behind this, this would kind of be the core team. And a few things that I want to call out here. All of these individuals are from Pittsburgh, so they're local. They're working here, being paid in our city, spending tax dollars here. Another thing I wanted to highlight is that we're bringing a mix of specialization. This is a website that requires, as John mentioned, it has some deep complexity to it. And for that reason, we have different specialists who do different things. So just as if you build a house, you have somebody who's doing the framing and somebody who's doing, pouring the foundation. A website is quite similar. So we'll have specialized developers, different from UX designers, strategists, project manager, account manager. Every base is covered to ensure that the project runs really smoothly. Also, with these individuals being local, not only, as John mentioned, can we come and do the training in person, but the recurring meetings that will be happening throughout the project, it'll be very easy to do those in person. Our office is next door to Signet, so we're literally just a walking distance away. Since we worked with the city originally 10 years ago, we've grown and evolved a lot, and it's been an honor to work with many of the businesses here locally to help them grow and thrive. This is just a few that we've had the honor of working with. But beyond our city limits, Limelight has grown, and we've also done work at a national and global level. So we've done work, as John said, we've built small sites, we've built extremely large sites, we've built extremely complex sites, and we have the processes and the infrastructure that's needed to deliver this site well, with a high degree of confidence that everything acts and operates as expected. So in closing, looking at our timeline, which is also illustrated or noted in the statement of work that you have in front of you, we're looking about an 8-month project timeline that will be delivered in incremental phases with some overlap between the different phases. We'd be looking at go live in the 8th month, and then there's a warranty period built in to catch any of the bugs and issues that may naturally pop up after a new launch. And then there's ongoing support and maintenance as we've been sharing and delivering to the city since the launch of the last site. And in closing, before we open it up for questions, we just want to reiterate that we're not just a vendor. We are a neighbor of yours. And we are hiring individuals who we have good paying jobs, so we're keeping, I really strongly believe that we are keeping some of our younger talent who may otherwise leave the city. We've invested in the downtown by revitalizing the building next to Signet. We're here, we're local, and we choose Pittsburgh. We're here because this is the place that we want to be, so it's an honor to have the opportunity to be considered as a partner for the city. And so we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have some questions. You mentioned security, so security is the foremost, so that we don't get hacked, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're gonna use any AI?
We definitely will use some features of AI. Do you want to talk about that, John?
Yeah, so we use AI tooling to help us check our work, to help us move faster in some cases, to help stretch creative assets and design where we need to. What we don't do is we don't just hand over all our work to AI agents to regurgitate junk out. So we use it to augment and enhance. We don't use it to do the work for us. So that's typically how we use it as part of our process.
Okay. Yeah. Another question is, people are gonna be able to buy, for instance, tickets to Memorial Auditorium events through this. What about interfacing in a partnership with PSU for the same type of thing? Would you be able to do that?
If that's something that we determine is a need, sure, yeah.
Okay. And one last question, projected upkeep costs.
Yeah, Jay, do you know exactly what the cost is today?
We have a retainer of $3,000 a month.
How much?
$3,000 a month to kind of as an ongoing maintenance requirement. So
Is it that
We
high,
might check
Jay?
that.
I think it's lower
I
than
think
that.
it's,
we don't use it. We don't use 3,000 a month.
Ah, I see.
It isn't that high. But we don't use it.
That's
is it? Okay, yeah.
budgeted amount.
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple of questions. I mean, the partnership we've had with you over 10 years, when we developed that partnership, did we take bids for this? Did you have to be part of a bid process?
Originally?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and you've done a good job over the 10 years, but, me as a commissioner, is this the best deal we can get? How do we know that if we don't put it out for bid?
Let me try to talk about that. There's a number of ways we can go about this. We could certainly go and bid the work out. There's no question about that. The trouble when you do that, of course, is you have to spend the time to analyze it. You have to work through what it is that they're going to actually provide. This is a known quantity. Our experience in the past has been that the other providers do this nickel and dime thing, all right, where they do gotchas. You're like, well, that wasn't in our contract, so that's going to cost you another $10,000. Or this wasn't. That's been the experience that we've had in the past, and it's experience I've had in other environments as well. So we feel more comfortable working with a partner where we have we know what we're going to, we know what we're getting. They know us. We know that they're going to be quality work, and they're going to provide us a level of cost on a regular basis, on an ongoing basis, that we can be more comfortable with.
Well, I can see your point, but I also see if we bid this out, they're welcome to rebid it, and if they are the ones we want, surely you know, they would get the bid. But I just feel comfortable thinking if we're trying to save some money, we ought to at least see what else is out there. I understand you're saying the other company's gonna nickel and dime us. I don't know that for a fact, you know, we could find that out, I guess, but I think it's worth at least putting it out for bid.
Is this 154,000, is that the total package?
It is, yes, it's the total package. I don't anticipate change controls throughout this, and I say that based on historical partnership with both the city and other clients. Limelight's approach, which is different from some agencies, not all, but our approach is to go in and estimate projects to the best of our ability based on the requirements known, and to limit change controls and try to minimize.
I'm just going to say, having dealt with packages in the past, this is a pretty reasonable cost. Consider that a physician's office will pay $60,000 to $75,000 a year for their initial package, for insurance billing, patient records, and all of that. That's minimum. They're going to pay that. So, to me, this seems very reasonable.
Well, and the likelihood of another vendor coming in and starting over, I can't imagine that the cost would be this reasonable, to your point, Doc. I mean, I don't know what the proprietary arrangements are with the website based on your services now, but I mean, that would be like starting over. Yeah, I don't see, based on my experience, I would not anticipate we would get a lower cost.
No offense to you guys, but I just want to ask, what's the difference of anything else we bid in the city? Like engineering services, anything else? It has specific, it lists costs. So you're saying that you're up to $3,000 per month. So what is it? Is it upfront 153 or whatever thousand, and then is it so much a month, or is it broke down monthly?
Yeah, good question. So the quote that you have in front of you, the 153, 154, that's the one-time expense to build the entire site.
Okay.
Once the site is fully built, you guys have paid for it. There's no ongoing cost or commitment. You 100% own the website, which is different than some of the other options. As Jay mentioned, in the past, you didn't own your website. You kind of rented the site, and you had limitations to what you could do. At the launch of the site, you have 100% ownership, and there's no ongoing fees that you have to pay to anyone outside of to host the website, which is quite reasonable. The city has opted to continue to work with Limelight in a partnership to support where needed. What?
So you're maintaining?
Yeah,
monthly?
to maintain and do updates.
Okay, is it a monthly thing or quarterly, or how is that?
It's monthly. I would be happy to follow up on this. I believe we're billing about $600 a month.
Okay, I'm not holding you to it. I'm just asking.
I think that's what we're
So it was
billing.
the initial plus, say roughly, technically $600 a month. So, and you see what you get from talking with them. So, but like I said, just going back to the other bid processes of anything from buying equipment to a fire truck or anything where there's a bid process. I understand where he's coming from, and it's no offense to you guys, but it does, that's come into play, because if that's the case, then anyone we've ever dealt with as far as a bid and has those charges on that they list out, that would be, they charge so much per whatever occurrence, and
Cheryl, I'm a little confused at what your point you're trying
well,
to make.
I'm just saying that bidding something compared to staying with them, I understand what they're talking about. But the bid process, we bid everything else. That's why I'm just a little, not worried, but concerned about why we just didn't ever in the past.
I guess I'd have
And,
a question.
10 years, we've been with them for 10 years, and you've proven yourself, and that's great. But, just like whenever we clean a building out downtown or tear something down, there's a bid process. At the end of the year, towing cars with the PD, there's a bid process. I'm sure when we bought the fire truck, we didn't just check one place, we checked several. Or loan amounts, during the year.
But we have come to you periodically and asked you to waive the bid process for
Yes.
certain things.
And I understand that,
And that's because in a situation where we have a decade-long relationship with a local provider of a service that we have confidence that is going to know our needs.
Yes.
It seems like a logical time to go out and say, well, why don't we just continue down this path rather than, we're putting in a new financial management system. We've got wholesale changes and, several other areas. This just seems like a place where we could have the momentum we already have. They already have the expertise about the product that we want.
Oh, I wasn't worried about
So
them.
I don't think this is
yeah.
the only time we've ever
Well, my
waived
question
the
would be,
bid
what,
process.
to what end? I mean, if we put it out for bid and we got a lower bid from somebody on the East Coast, West Coast, North, South, whatever, and everything we had to do with them, we had to fly their representatives in for training, for, on-site, whatever. I mean,
We have done that before.
but this is a Pittsburgh company.
I understand that.
It's a Pittsburgh company.
I'm
that
not
we have
saying
a
that I
10-year
don't
relationship with.
want it. I'm just saying that.
But my point is what if that outside entity comes in and they're $10,000 cheaper than Limelight? Is that, that's the low bid, so do we take that?
They have preference, the 3% preference.
Right.
And it was merely a question. It's not anything to get all hot and bothered about. It's
Not
just
hot and bothered,
merely
I'm
a
just
question.
curious.
And like I said, I appreciate your work and I do navigate around on there, so.
So it sounds like you're asking us to waive the bid process, Darren, on this.
And I'm perfectly
I'm not
fine with
asking
what they're
that.
doing.
I'm just trying to
It's
clarify.
just that I didn't
is
understand the
in
bid
essence what we're doing. This
process,
is
why
just
they
an-
didn't bid it.
It's just an amendment to an existing master services agreement that we already have with them, right? But it is not being bid, and so in that essence, we are asking you to not. to
So can you
avoid
say
the
that
bid.
again? It's really an extension of an existing.
We have a master services agreement with Limelight, and this would be an amendment to the existing.
I just want to
master
respond to Stu's statement that if somebody else bid it, we would know if we had to fly them in for whatever reason, and that cost would be part of the package.
That's not necessarily true, because a lot of these programs will have a glitch, or they'll develop a glitch over time, and then you have to fly them in, and they charge you out the wazoo to do that.
Well, you're talking about something that could happen. It's not- Yeah.
And I can guarantee you it will happen.
Well, I don't know if I would go with that guarantee, but I don't know.
I just feel like this is a continuation of an established vendor that the city has.
For sure. But I mean, it seems like.
We're not building, we're updating the website, we're revamping the website, we're not creating a brand-new website.
I was merely asking the question. It has nothing to do with them personally. I just wanted to know the difference.
One other thing to keep in mind too is we consider the website a major, an important line of business application for us, right? So it is one of those things where you want to protect it, you want to be careful. Those are one of the underlying factors that we're facing and we're deciding to redo the website because so many people use it and it's so important to how we do business, is we want to make sure we're very comfortable with who we're doing business with and that they can be responsive, and having someone capable as they are right in town, literally 2 blocks from here, is really gold for us, all right? So that's one of the main reasons why, and when you look at one of the reasonings why we're approaching you in this manner, right? That's one of the reasons.
Any more questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor to approve the revised master service agreement with Limelight Marketing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I just want to say it doesn't hurt to ask if we're getting the best deal. I know you can get upset about it, but that's what we're.
Upset about it.
Well, it sounded like a few people might have been, but that's our job.
You can ask a question, but I can't?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, that's what it sounded like.
What
I
I'm
was just
saying
asking
is,
a
we
question.
answer to the citizens, and that's what I do.
Okay,
I want to make sure we're getting the best deal.
And that's all I was doing was clarifying.
Well, whatever you want to
All
say.
right, we're gonna move on
That's
to
fine.
executive session. An executive session is necessary to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1. Thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
Limelight, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. To discuss the city manager's 2025 evaluation. Motion to recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the city manager's 2025 evaluation pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under KSA 75-4319B1, with the meeting to resume in the commission room in 15 minutes.
I'll make a motion to
To do all that?
Second.
Okay, moved by Chuck, seconded by Cheryl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. decision's made, no votes taken.
I think they're not paying attention.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Moved by Stu, seconded by Chuck. All those in favor say aye.
Aye,
Aye, motion carries.
right, you're good. Now I gotta go.